All right, y'all, so we back with some more trail cam videos that viewers are struggling to rationally explain. So this one is titled, "This Ranger Can't Explain What His Trail Camera Just Captured Deep in the Woods." So we finna check it out and see what's going on. If you're new, you know what to do. Find it, hit that subscribe button, and join the family. Let's check it out.
Trail cameras are a great and new resource to show us all sorts of things in the wild we never would have seen before.
All you can see is sort of a white ball. And so finally I got sick of this, and I've taken about 500 pictures at this point.
From animals brought back from extinction to a deer in the wild busting a move, here are 20 of the weirdest things ever caught on trail cams. White deer unlike the others. The term albino usually refers to a person or animal without any pigment in their skin or hair, meaning they look totally white as snow. It's uncommon and super rare for most species, but there are also occasions where a white creature is just an abnormally colored character for genetic reasons.
I gotta stop thinking, like, every time I hear the word rare, I think money. I don't know why I'm like, I'm programmed that way. I don't know why. I hear rare, I think money. So I'm like, ooh, wonder how much somebody got if they captured one of these, but let me stop thinking like that.
The white deer, for instance, has most of the traits of an albino deer, except instead of missing pigment, it simply has a genetic mutation. Piebald deer are often mistaken as albino creatures, even though they're much more common. They've mostly white fur with occasional patches of brown and are otherwise the same as the normally brown white-tailed deer. These white deer were rare enough to the point that Native Americans believed they were magical creatures that would give you bad luck if you killed them. Normally, the piebald species are the result of undesirable genetic traits. Other than being exposed to the elements and lacking natural camouflage, most of these creatures also have recessive genes that lead to physical deformities and health problems. This makes their survival into adulthood that much rarer. So if you do manage to see one in the wild and you can tell it's not an elusive albino, you might have made a groundbreaking discovery yourself. Now let's get ready for today's missing topic. Today we're looking at an unknown creature that stumbled through an abandoned trail in the forest. After going over the footage, this ranger can't explain what his trail camera just captured deep within these woods. It looks like a human in zombie makeup. Or
that look like a bad kid.
Maybe it's a kid doing an impression of a president on a dollar bill. It's definitely hard to tell with just one image, but there wasn't any other footage on the camera that could say where the person or creature came from.
I don't want to meet him though. Definitely looks like a troubled kid. Like, I don't want to meet him.
Or where they were planning on going. It's definitely a mystery, but probably one that can easily be solved. Have you seen this kid wandering about?
Nope.
Maybe someone should alert his parents, or at least the proper authorities, unless this could be a zombie out in the wild, or maybe even a physical spirit come back from the grave.
If this isn't Halloween time when this picture was taken or this video was recorded, ain't nothing you can rationally explain to me to make me say otherwise about what I'm seeing.
Getting those zombie vibes. What do you guys think is going on here? Let us know in the comments using hashtag missing topic and tell us if this is a real threat or a lost cause. Hey, did you know that if you smash the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell, you're more likely to win the lottery? So what are you waiting for? An odd couple. Nothing makes time pass by faster than traveling with a buddy, and apparently that counts for the animal kingdom too, as seen by this trail cam footage of a bear and a coyote out on a hike. Mike Keikos owned the camera that caught the surprising moment in a Florida forest. The video showed a large brown bear walking on a stroll with his coyote pal. There isn't enough to go off of to figure out either of the animals' intentions, but they definitely seem friendly towards each other. Or at least, they don't look like a fight will break out soon. The bear doesn't seem to mind what's going on and simply walks through the woods at his own pace. The coyote, on the other hand, seems to notice something, maybe even the camera spying on it. It then hustles to get back to the bear, and the two resume their journey.
I'm not tripping though. He said brown bear. That's black, right? I'm not losing my vision, am I?
If we didn't know any better, it almost looks like a VIP bear going about his business with a strong wolf escort. Mike was shocked after seeing the tape. He decided to share the video with the world, and even the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission became involved. The FWC appreciated that the animal pair seemed peaceful and wanted to promote their friendship. Maybe there's a lesson or two that can be learned from them. At the very least, it always feels safer to travel with a buddy by your side. The dogs of the Amazon. There are a lot of known animals in the wild and possibly even more unknown. But then there are the animals that are just too hard to find, like the short-eared dog of the Amazon. It's supposed to be even harder to spot than a jaguar. One Duke University researcher, ecologist, and veterinarian, Renata Late Pittman, has been studying these wild dogs for the last 14 years, and she's only been able to track 5 of them so far. She says that they're timid and very different from the dog breeds we're often more familiar with. Their naturally dark coats blend into the common underbrush they inhabit so they can keep out of sight from predators. But also scientific observers. Footage of the dogs didn't spring up until the end of May, when a conservation biologist made his way through the area with his own GoPro camera. He set his GoPro up on a hog-like carcass he brought from Peru and hoped to catch a king vulture fiesta. But instead, after just 20 minutes of waiting, a dog made its appearance. It didn't stay long, and according to Pittman, it was probably because the camera scared it away. She really only knows that blinking lights and a human scent will scare them into fleeing. Because of their elusiveness, there isn't much else to go off of yet. Pittman is trying to track their population and behaviors, but so far it isn't proving to be fruitful. There are thoughts that the species could be endangered, not from being hunted, but deforestation taking out their homes and prey to feed on. Without a bigger picture of the animals' habitats, it won't be possible to say for sure. But hopefully we get some answers before it's too late. Just hitching a ride. Sometimes we all need a break, but that doesn't mean we can stop moving. For humans, we just need to hop in a car or a boat or a plane. But hitching a ride in the wild is a completely different experience. Some animals find codependence, like birds picking the...
It's good to know animals are lazy too, you know what I mean? Work smarter, not harder is the motto.
Bugs off of hippos. But this camera trap in a park in South Africa caught something especially special. A genet riding around on a buffalo, and a rhino, and maybe even more. But first off, a genet is a type of mammal that looks kind of like a spotted cat. They're related to mongoose, though, rather than leopards, and they're pretty small, at least compared to these huge herbivores they're stowing away on. The conservationists at the park were using the cameras to non-invasively monitor the wildlife. They were trying to track the big 5 species of Africa: elephants, buffalo, rhinos, leopards, and lions. They claim that these animals make appearances all the time, as do the common genets. But none of these species tend to frolic together, and they definitely don't ride on each other. But here was a genet fearlessly taking a rhino taxi.
Hey, all I see is an animal that's smart enough to know you gotta preserve your legs, bro. You know, you gotta preserve them.
The more they watched, the more often they would catch genets in the act, and the gentle giants simply obliging their needs. There aren't any solid explanations how or why these relationships were built, but so far the researchers are pretty happy with the bizarreness of it all. At least it's a fun mystery that still needs to be solved. A really tired elk. Some animals have a passion for fashion, while others like to accessorize. Here's one elk that went around carrying a tire around its neck for a full year. It's a bull elk that lives in the Colorado Parks and Wildlife and the Arapahoe Roosevelt National Forest. People have been spotting the creature with a tire for over a year before experts began to worry. Turns out that it's more than just a bold fashion statement. Researchers think that the elk is still pretty young and growing, and soon it will outgrow the size needed for the tire to stay on. If the elk grows any bigger, the mounted rubber might be too tight across its neck.
That's what I was thinking, like, if he's gonna continue to grow, isn't that gonna choke him? So why hasn't nobody kind of tranquilized him down and cut this thing off of him yet?
And become a breathing obstacle. One spokesperson told reporters that it'll soon be having trouble eating, breathing, and sleeping unless the tire is removed soon. The tire could also be mistaken for a sign of aggression in the wild. Other elk might think they're being challenged, or a predator could see it as an opportunity to strike.
So they got it off.
But while seeing an elk with a full tire ring as a necklace might be an oddity, finding similar species trapped both alive and dead with other man-made objects has become more commonplace. Whether it's rubber, metal, or plastic, most creatures can't help themselves around our harmful garbage, which made it more important to get the tire off while there was still time. After 4 attempts, the wildlife control was able to tranquilize the baby elk and cut the tire out. Unfortunately, the tire itself was too thick and in a delicate enough position to not be removed, so some of the antlers had to be sawed off instead. When all was said and done, the elk was about 16 kilograms lighter, or about 35 pounds. Yellowstone's rarest animal. While some animals are the kind you never want to encounter, there are also some that are worth seeing on tape rather than up close. This rare footage came from Yellowstone National Park and managed to successfully capture the rarest animal in its collection. The special shot is of a wolverine in the Mammoth Hot Springs area that sparked some attention. According to the official Facebook post made by the park, wolverines, sometimes called gulo, are mid-sized carnivores in the weasel family that typically occupy high-elevation alpine and forest habitats, exist in low densities in the park, and are rarely detected. The cameras used were remote devices meant to monitor the cougar population back in 2014, but has since been used for detecting other animal species and revealing more about Yellowstone's ecology. According to the park, there's only been 7 known examples of wolverines documented in Yellowstone.
Great. Another reason for me to stay away from Yellowstone. No problem. You know what I mean? If the volcano wasn't enough.
In other nearby national forests, between 2006 and 2009, there were 2 females and 5 males caught on video, but no others. Despite their short statures, wolverines are carnivores that can live to grow up to 4 feet long. They stick to colder, more solitary lifestyles, which is why they tend to remain so elusive. You're more likely to find them huddled under the snow than walking around above it. But hopefully this new footage can shed some light on their behaviors and habits so we can learn more about these hiding critters. As one park ranger said, when we have such a large ranging carnivore present on the landscape, that means we're doing a good job of managing our wilderness. Legend of the Fresno Alien. These creatures have a bit of a reputation going for them already, although not as many animals you'd expect to see in a national park. They're called the Fresno Nightcrawlers and seem to be a modern folktale that also looks like a long-legged alien walking around as if white pants had suddenly come to life. People are calling them a species of cryptids, something that people claim exists in the wild but have yet to be proven. Of course, with such little evidence, many people are skeptical, but this video could be proof that they're real. But these Fresno Nightcrawlers are sparking a bit more fanfare than the usual ghost stories or fairy tales. The internet has taken a liking to the idea of a fun alien and began to spread stories and merchandise of the creature. Plush toys and keychains are common samples of what some people are selling to promote the idea, while the local residents seem to embrace the concept of being a popular tourist spot. The first documented case came about in 2007, when surveillance footage was brought in without any explanation. Then in 2011, more footage that was slightly clearer began to spread of the creatures we think of today. Following that video, more content began to pop up, although most of it's fan-made and dedicated to the idea behind the creature, rather than provable evidence of it existing. It might take a while to figure out if these things really are real, but the supporters will still stick around either way. The lost mouse deer. This creature that was found could be considered something mythical as much as it was a lost animal to time. It's a 2-tone mouse deer that was caught on tape in a Vietnamese forest. It's officially called a silver-backed chevrotin, and it was thought to be a creature written out of history until this sudden reappearance. Despite taking its name and appearance from 2 other animals, this mouse deer is actually the size of a rabbit with a body that's split into 2 colors, hence the 2-tone in its name. It has a noticeably mouse-type head with a neck and front legs colored silver-white, the back and bottom distinctly more whitish. Technically, they do have hooves, making them the world's smallest ungulate, meaning a hoofed animal. But they're also mostly preyed on by wild dogs, pythons, and leopards, often enough that they're starting to be pushed towards extinction.
Definitely look like something a snake would relentlessly go after.
These images of the creature are the first to be taken after nearly 30 years of knowing that the small beast still exists. So for a lot of people, it comes as a confirmation that the little guys are still out there. But the real question should be, how many are left? Songs of the Coyote. Unless it's a domesticated dog breed, it's generally a rule of thumb to avoid wild canines. Wolves and coyotes are especially notorious for their violent hunting practices, so you don't want to approach or be near any without good reason. But have you ever heard the coyote's song? They're usually referred to as the most vocal animal of North America's mammals, which is impressive to say the least. Coyotes will huff and puff for greetings and bark or whine to express comfort and discomfort to one another. The literal translation for coyote is actually Canis latrans, which means barking dog in Latin. So they've always been known for their sounds of language, even if we can't understand them. When a pack of these song dogs get together to howl, you'll definitely notice. As opposed to the drawn-out piercing sound of a wolf's howl, the coyote is more of a high-pitched bark and yip. Some have made the comparison to the coyotes having lyrics in their song and that each note holds different meanings. Researchers have even confidently—
You couldn't even hear that one, but you could tell he was laying down some notes right here. You couldn't even hear him, but you just knew he was loud and letting the notes fly
in their song and that each note holds different meanings. Researchers have even confidently suspected that the songs range in intensity and volume to determine what they're singing about and why they chose that song. But then again, some people might not recognize the calls of the coyote. Many live alongside humans without making themselves obvious, even in cities. It's not unheard of for people to mistake the coyote howls as a large pack of animals all raising their voices at once. It might even be intentional on the part of the coyote to sound bigger than they actually are. It definitely gets the job done and creeps most people and probably most animals out, so they won't approach it. A big bear. Bears are big, like really, really big. So
now that one looked pregnant. Now there's big and then there's pregnant. Now which one is this one?
Big bear. Bears are big, like really, really big. So big that you'd probably forget how big they are if you only watch silly videos of them hanging out with humans like big cuddly dogs. But if you were to see one in person, you'd recognize that they tower over even the largest of humans in both height and weight. But then there's this mammoth guy, an extraordinarily sized bear that stumbled its way in front of another trail camera. The big black bear was found in Voyageurs National Park in Minnesota, with a stomach so large that it almost drags along the floor. Do bears normally get that big? Some locals who saw the footage were concerned for its health. The Facebook post that originally showcased the footage wrote in the description, "This might be the fattest bear we've ever seen in our area." But Steph Horner of the Vince Chute Wildlife Sanctuary told others that the bear was completely fine. She also mentioned that most bears in northern Minnesota try to gain between 30 and 50% of their weight before hibernation, and then just not eat for another 6 to 7 months. She even thinks that the bear might be from her own sanctuary and managed to escape for a few more bites before winter after its home kitchen closed their doors. There are plenty of cases of bears this large, and some even larger. But fortunately, they do manage to shed their weight after a long winter sleep. Maybe we should ask them for some dieting advice.
Now, don't get me wrong. Even though that bear is that big, I still think he's agile enough where you won't be able to run from him. Let's just get that clear.
Bold and beautiful bear. Even bears are fans of an occasional glamour shot or two. This Colorado bear has started to trend on social media after stopping at a wildlife camera to work on its selfie technique. The photo shoot occurred at one of 9 motion detecting cameras in the open space and mountain park system.
He trying to get a movie role. Look at him trying to get a deal.
Also called OSMP. That ranges across 46,000 acres. While most animals ignore the cameras and continue about their day, this bear in Boulder seems to have broken past the norm. The cameras are supposed to be used to track the habits and movement patterns of the different local species. They provide an opportunity to see what some animals are up to when no one else is watching. But it's hard to observe a lot of animals when this one keeps getting in the way. When the officials reviewed the tapes, they found almost 400 images of just a single bear. In some of the shots, the bear was even posing. It licked its lips, stuck out its tongue, looked directly at the camera, looked away from the camera, you name it. We wouldn't be surprised if it started doing impressions at some point. The images were posted on the agency's official Instagram account, so at least the selfies were put to good use.
Yo, I swear this bear, I wouldn't be surprised if he ain't got a business card or something.
Deer versus raccoon. There's an endless number of reasons for animals to fight, but a common struggle in the wilderness is the competition over food. This wild buck found itself in a similar situation against this horde of hungry raccoons. Normally, the hoofed beasts have nothing to do with the soft and round trash pandas, as most locals like to call them, but raccoons do like scrounging through others' trash to feed themselves, and this deer just wasn't done yet. The townsfolk call him Old Coon Dog and consider him to be the toughest boss amongst the rest of his kind. When something is laid down to eat, he almost always gets first dibs, and the other animals respect that. but the raccoons have been known to ignore these qualifications of authority. When there were piles of corn laid about for all of the animals to consume, most other deer let the raccoons at it first. They generally don't like confrontation. That is, except for old Coon Dog. He had already marked the piles as his own by digging a hole in front of them and leaving a urine-scented trail to mark his territory. But the raccoons didn't care and went for the treasure anyway. So, what's a king to do during an unplanned uprising? At first, the boss deer tried to eat alongside the 26 wild raccoons. There was no need to fight if they could all share, but as they got in his way and tripped him up, the buck eventually resorted to its powerful kicks to send a message. While he didn't actually hit anything, the strong blow was enough for the raccoons to realize that they needed to move out of the way and grab what they can. Maybe next time they'll watch where they eat. The lucky striped rabbit. Here's a story of a striped rabbit being seen in the wild. Many thought it was a myth for a while, that it could have easily been a trick of the light or a mistaken sight. But the rabbit is real. It's called an Annamite striped rabbit. It belongs exclusively to the Annamite Mountains of Vietnam and Laos and is a protected species under Vietnamese law. The creature is rare enough to the point that their population count is unknown and even listed as a data deficient category in the official animal registry. These striped rabbits are as shy as they are elusive, so even catching one on film has proven to be a real challenge. But one lucky guy not only managed to see some in the wild, but was capable of grabbing several stunning photos of the species in his routine forest patrol. He works in a local forest guard team in a nature reserve. He was able to retell the story in his own words, claiming it was a hot summer's day in April. 6 of us were on our regular patrol in the reserve. We were going down a mountain and suddenly we saw an animal near an old cut down tree. It was just 4 meters away and it was a striped rabbit. We froze with excitement. We stood still, afraid that it would run away if it heard any noise.
How many of y'all have ever eaten rabbit? I haven't. I know some people who have. I've never done it, but how many of y'all have? Just a random question, my bad.
Took out a camera, took some photos, and then moved a bit closer. I guessed it was sleeping, otherwise it would have run away when I moved. Talk about a lucky shot, deer shaking free. We've gone over quite a bit of trivia about deer this time around, but there's always something else to learn. Like, did you know that deer can shake off their antlers? At least this one did. This footage was taken and uploaded to Facebook by the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department. The video shows a wild deer minding its own business. It looks to be scratching at its head, not for any particular reason, but then it suddenly gets an instinctive urge and starts to violently shake all around. Then, in a blink, you'll miss it. The antlers pop off. It almost looks like the deer was struggling to get its pants off after coming home late from a dinner party. But instead of pants, its antlers fell clean off and the creature just darted away. Was it surprised that the antlers slipped away and freaked out and bolted unintentionally? The official that caught the event on camera said that it was a spectacular and unique event. She also said that it didn't lure the animal in, but it was likely just nibbling at some fallen apples nearby. She did, however, go back and pick the antlers up later. Deer annually shed their antlers and regrow them after each winter season, so they become nothing more than fancy ornaments by those lucky enough to find them. But it might be even luckier to witness them fall off, since this is the cleanest footage we've seen so far. The white spirit bear.
Never really knew that was a thing until I started watching these videos, man. And to see a deer actually do that, because I always suspected that would hurt them or something like that if they cut those off. I felt like it was attached to them, so it would hurt. But seeing them do that once a year now and hearing about it frequently, that's just mind-blowing to me. You know what I mean? Seriously.
The most common bears are known for their colors. Black bears and brown bears are self-explanatory, but polar bears are generally the white ones, right? What if we told you that there's such thing as a white black bear? And no, it's not an albino, but just as unlikely to spot in the wild, if not more so. These white black bears only exist as a 1 in a million chance of 2 black bears breeding with their recessive genes matching up. It's been called the spirit bear by the few Native Americans that managed to spot one in the wild, but another case has been seen on camera not too long ago. This one was found in the western Upper Peninsula of Michigan, in a region of the Great Lakes state where bears are commonly seen. It was a bit on the small side, weighing in at only 100 pounds or so, but just spotting one of these creatures is considered to be an uncommon feat anywhere in the world. Hardly any white or blonde bears are ever reported in North America, so it's hard to know how many even exist. So in Western Canada, where some American black bears have the chance of being born blonde, this white bear in Michigan is a first for the country and the first time being filmed in at least 20 years. But now that wildlife officials know of its existence, they're doing everything they can to protect it from poaching. Its elusiveness may help it out, but the white fur definitely makes for poor camouflage. The Tasmanian devil. You might have heard of a famous Tasmanian devil, but while that creature is real and can be found in the wild, the Tasmanian tiger is a bit of a different story. These tigers were reported to have gone extinct as the last recorded case of the species died out at Hobart Zoo in 1936.
That's gotta be like a crossbreed that was created in a lab or something like that. Tasmanian tiger? It definitely don't sound friendly either.
But a new sighting and some amateur video work has sparked interest in the idea that some of these tigers might still be prowling around. A thin, dog-like creature was seen in the city Victoria of the country of Australia. It was caught by a group of explorers trying to record a variety of wildlife on film. They were the members of the Wildlife Research and Rescue Team and said they'd left cameras on for 3 weeks to see what they could find. The camera took hundreds of hours of footage to be scoured through, but among them was a few seconds worth of grainy footage that showed a slightly familiar creature. According to one of the members, their infrared camera was overexposed, meaning that they couldn't get a good shot of whether the creature had the right stripes on its back to determine its species. Not only that, but it also seems to be smaller than what the tiger should be at its normal size, meaning it could be another wild critter. Or it could be very malnourished. But the tail is a giveaway of the creature and provides a bit of hope to an otherwise dashed dream. If it really is a Tasmanian tiger, chances are that it's still young. And if it's young, that means the parents could also still be around. Guess there's still some tracking left to do. Bigfoot for real. Is Bigfoot real? And if he is, does he appreciate everyone referring to him by the size of his feet? Some wildlife trail cameras at the Alberta Conservation Association found a few images of a bipedal gigantic creature that is yet to be officially identified. Footage like this does
America's most wanted
come around every once in a while, and more often than not, it's been proven to be a hoax. But could this time be different? Biologists tracking the footage also found measurements of tracks in the snow and hair samples from the site to further their investigation. The person in charge, Dr. Todd Zimmerling, noted that these samples turned up invalid, as in they could not determine what species the samples belonged to, and it was likely an unknown creature. He said, "I've been a biologist for over 20 years, so I know the level of skepticism this announcement will elicit from our peers, but I don't have any other explanation." Between the tracks, the video, and the hair samples, it appears that we have evidence of the existence of a Bigfoot-like creature in Alberta. They aren't releasing any more information on the matter yet, mostly to keep wild conspiracy theorists away until a proper examination can be done. But for now, all we can do is believe. The apex of Madagascar. The island of Madagascar is famous for its lemurs and the DreamWorks film with the same title. But what it's not well known for is having a large amount of apex predators. So, when one was found and shown on digital media, the video quickly started to gain some attention. The predator is known as a fossa or a Cryptoproctopheryx, and it mostly feeds on lemurs. They are terrier-sized for scale, but otherwise cat-like in appearance and related to mongooses biologically. Just like other top predators of the forest or the jungle, the fossa keeps tabs on the wildlife balance and helps maintain population order when left on their own. They only exist in Madagascar, which isn't uncommon for a lot of these exclusive species, but because of that, not much is known about them. On average, they weigh about 20 pounds and target most other Madagascar animals for food. Because they're so light, they have the ability to hunt or land in trees and can also split through a skull with just their teeth. Other than that, scientists only know so much on the hidden creature. camera traps have been set up to try and track them just to get a head count on how many exist. They are rare to keep track of, so once we know how many there are, we can decide if their kind needs saving from endangerment. The dancing deer. Sometimes you just feel like busting a move. This deer frolicked right in front of a camera and left some wildlife officials stunned with its unusual dance choreography. The cameras are meant to capture any unusual animal behaviors that they normally wouldn't perform in front of people.
So I think he listening to like some old school Cypress Hill or something like that. Something new that maybe some old school Lil Jon. That'll get you hyped.
And so far, it seems to be working. Does dancing alone count as unusual behavior? A lot of people would probably be guilty of it. At one point, though, the deer even stops and looks at it as it notices the camera, only to resume its jumping and hopping to a mysteriously silent beat.
It could be challenging the camera, thinking that the camera is another animal or human or something jumping around like, this ain't what you want.
In the official Facebook post of this unique clip, one park ranger said, "We can't explain the deer's behavior in this video, but it allows us to be curious and potentially pursue the question, why is this deer behaving that way? Maybe it was happy or maybe it was upset. People have lots of reasons to hop around like mad, so maybe it shouldn't be that surprising when an animal does it too. But that does beg the question, should we be watching some of these animals in their private moments? But of course, as long as people are curious, the answer will always be yes. Maybe some things were better left undiscovered, but as long as we're capable of finding new and interesting sights, we'll continue to explore just how wild and crazy nature can be. Cameras continue to change and improve, so our evidence will only grow until we have verifiable proof of what's really out there. So stay tuned for our next big discovery.
Yeah, maybe something was challenging him. Maybe something we couldn't see was challenging him. I don't know. It just seemed awfully weird how he was moving around and jumping around. To me, it seems like he was like, sometimes you got to act crazy to get people to, or get other animals to get away from you. They tell you all the time, act big or make yourself boast up, be real loud. So he was doing his own little version of that. That's all I'm saying. Maybe, you know what I mean? But definitely some interesting stuff, bro. The wild in nature is always very interesting to me. You know what I mean? I'm always somehow drawn to it. So, but y'all get at me in the comment section and let me know what you thought of this video. Stick around and stay tuned. I'm gone. Peace.